subscription and find it there. I'm sure it's posted either the Elliott Wave reports or the various long-term reports. So we're just firing up the Zoom now, and we will be live. Mario, welcome. If you have any questions, please go ahead. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Just bear with me. Welcome everybody. My name is Keith Hampton, and I have been a very happy and pleased customer of Bitcoin Trend and Forecast. I was very fortunate to get introduced to this organization back in 2016, where we were looking for honesty and integrity in the cryptocurrency space. And boy, that was hard to find. And to some degree, it still is a little bit. And I came across this wonderful man named Marius Landman and his wife, Wendy, and they had made a huge difference in my life. I was able to get some solid information and honesty out of this organization to help me navigate this wonderful world. And it has been quite a journey. By the way, most people in the crypto space have been quite shocked at the recent meltdown that we've had in the cryptocurrency space. I mean, my gosh, Bitcoin is overall down roughly 50%, and some of the altcoins are down 90 some percent. And I'm sure that a lot of people are really, really frustrated and concerned with what's happening in the marketplace today. For me, and for subscribers of BitcoinTAF.com, we're actually quite calm and quite excited because this was all predicted over a year ago, exactly what was going to happen. So that's the beauty of being involved with this organization. So I highly recommend for most people who are getting started, simply sign up for free. And then if you really want to focus just on Bitcoin, subscribe to the long-term Bitcoin algorithms. That will give you the forecasts of what's happened in the past and what's going to happen in the future. Now, for a very limited time, not only if you sign up for this for 3 months, but you also will get the altcoin Elliott Wave reports as well for free, which is a savings of over $447. And that, to me, is a steal of a deal. And I'm going to show you why. I'm going to bring up here on my computer some charts that are going to actually, I believe, blow you away. This is a report by Marius that's put out on a weekly basis. And what is amazing is that these forecasts that are anywhere from 1 to 1.5 years predicted in advance are playing out 100% accuracy. I know that's uncanny, but on a macro level, his algorithms are just incredible. He started utilizing algorithms way back many, many years ago when he was in the oil and gas industry. And he started using algorithms to predict accidents, near misses, and fatal events in the drilling and completion sides of the oil and gas industry. Since then, he's gone on to do other major predictions in the political world, also in the stock market world. And today, he focuses on the cryptocurrency space. Now, what is really amazing is all of these patterns that he predicted have so far turned out to be 100% correct. So way back in November of 2021, he already told us a year in advance that we were going to hit a top at some point, and this is where it played out exactly to the day. And then he predicted we're going to have a major retracement, which also was played out in the knowledge pattern. And then we started in a whole new pattern that basically started a pattern today, which we're going to call the 16 gates of the Prince of Jerusalem cycle, which is started with this Jaffa gate that happened here back in September. The Jaffa gate started basically. Where's my? I'm having a little problem with my computer here. Something's. What's happening here? Anyway, back in July of this year, in 2025, that's where we had the Jaffa Gate start, and then we jumped up into a Zion Gate, and these all have been completed 100% accurate. Then we hit into this really difficult Dun Gate, which was a very frustrating time for a lot of the cryptocurrency investors. And then just when we were ready to break out, we jumped up into this Damascus Gate. Now, this Damascus Gate was a long, drawn-out gate. And ironically, he told us back then that we were going to have a very unusual, almost a strange head and shoulders pattern that was going to take place. And we were going to have major drops, which we called F1, which was falling knife 1. And we were waiting for and looking for falling knife 2, which just was completed. Now we're in a whole new cycle. And this was all predicted ahead of time. So we're utilizing algorithms to be able to predict the future. And that is exactly, this pattern was set out to us over a year and a half ago that we had to work with. So we were able to plan when to get in and when to get out of Bitcoin. And that's what we're seeing here today. So the question is, for people that are not subscribers to BitcoinTAF.com, is what's going to happen in the future? That's the million-dollar question. And if you don't have a subscription, you don't know what's going to happen here in the future. Are we going to be going up? Are we going to continue going down? Are we going to go sideways? What's about to play out? And that's the beauty of having this subscription. So you know ahead of time what's happening in this marketplace. So for that, I'd like to now show you a couple of other things, along with these predictions, where you know what's going to happen in the altcoins and in Bitcoin. You can be a long-term investor knowing when to get in and when to get out. You also have a tremendous amount of education and training, learning to be a better trader, how to utilize different indicators to create confidence, to know what are your odds going into a trade. Is it, a higher percentage of success or not? This you know ahead of time with all the educational courses that Marius puts out here. So I'm going to show you one indicator that we have here called the HODL Fire. And it is an amazing tool to add in to this portfolio. It's extremely inexpensive and highly accurate. Is it 100% accurate? No, no indicator out there is. It just gives you a high degree of probability of when to get in and when to get out. And so the training and education that these folks put on, like the Ultimate Trade course or the foundational course, teaches you all about how to use stop losses to protect your investments or your trades so that you don't get whipsawed out, where you get into a buy and then it goes south on you and you don't get out at the right time and you end up going down and dropping huge drops in this in the trade. So here's an example. I'm going to bring up a coin here called Virtual. And Virtual, we're going to use 4-hour candles. And this indicator that I'm going to be turning on is amazing, the HODL Fire indicator, because it gives you predictions of when we're at pivot tops and pivot bottoms. And this is a good indicator of knowing when to be getting in and when to be getting out of trades. So I'm going to turn it on and just show you basically how it works. And first off, this utilizes pivot tops, pivot bottoms, also has buy and sell tags. Now, if you're using it on longer time frames, your accuracy goes up. On shorter time frames, the accuracy decreases somewhat. So there's always got to be risk management involved in this. And one of the things too, we also have the 200 moving average also on this indicator. Now that tells us that when we're below the 200 MA, the risks are higher. So in other words, the probabilities are a little more difficult to predict than when we're above the 200 MA, which I'm going to be showing you on another coin called ZRO. When I turn it on, you're going to notice that we're above the 200 MA. So it's ideally, if you could be trading above the 200 MA on a regular basis, your odds of success go up dramatically. But let's just go back to Virtual. So how I utilize this tool is I'm looking for confluence. And so I look for a bottom pivot, and that's a good sign. However, what you need to understand is that when you see a new pivot coming in at the front of the line, instead of being in black, it will show up in blue. What that means is that it is not 100% confirmed that that's a pivot bottom. So we need to have extra confluence. So what I'm looking for is a buy tag to show up after we get the bottom pivot. That increases my odds that this is a higher probability of a pivot bottom, but there is no guarantee. This could go away. We could suddenly turn and go back down. So let me go back and just show you how I would utilize this particular trade. So here we have a pivot bottom, and then I have a buy tag coming in. And now that's a good point where I would enter the trade based on just this one indicator. And so I would enter the trade somewhere in this range. And again, this would have been in blue. So I want to protect my capital. So what I would have done is I would have set a stop loss on that trade, probably in this case, just slightly below that pivot bottom. So it could be a false bottom. And in other words, I'm only risking a small percentage of my total investment on this trade. In this case, it's about 5%. So say on $100, I'm only risking $5 on this trade if it goes south on me, because this thing could easily turn and head back down. Now, as the trade plays out and goes further along, when I start seeing that it's getting some strength, then what I do is I move my stop loss up into basically break even. Now, from this point on, I've got a risk-free trade going on. So if this suddenly goes south on me, I won't lose any money. And I simply stay in the trade until we see a top pivot. And that is when I would exit the trade. So I would have exited somewhere in this range. And in that case, I would have taken a trade where I had a 5% risk of loss into about a 7% profit. So that's about 1.5 to 1 ratio, which isn't bad, but it isn't as good as I'd like. So again, how would this play out going in the future? Here's a good example. Here we had a big wick down, and then we had a pivot bottom show up in blue, much like we're seeing here, but we don't have a buy tag. So would I enter this at this point? No, probably not. I would be waiting for this buy tag to come in. And at that point, that's when I would enter this trade. But I would also want to protect my capital. So I would have set a stop loss. And now in this case, I wouldn't have gone all the way down because that's a pretty large drop. I probably would have set it about here, just below this wick. And in this case, I would be risking a little more on this particular trade. It would be about 7%. So on $100, I'd be risking 7. Now, as you can see, this thing is going absolutely sideways, up and down, up and down. And when I seen this pivot top come in, that's when I would have exited the market. And I probably would have broke even or maybe lost 0.5% or something like that. So that's a very flat trade. That was just no gain. But here we are today at the front of the market. What would I be doing? Well, I'm waiting for the bottom pivot. Yes, we got a buy tag. That's when I would enter this particular trade, right about here. I would also set the stop loss. And again, depending on your risk tolerance, I would probably be setting it quite tight because of the volatility. And in this case, we're now got a new risk of approximately, in this case, about 5%. That's what I would be utilizing. Now, as this thing is moving up, I see it's got some strength here. I would be moving my stop loss at this point in time. Whoops, my apologies. Get rid of that. Get this other thing. So I would already be in, my stop loss would be at break even. So now I have a no risk trade going on in virtual. And I could simply ride this out, wait for a top pivot, and then exit the market. That's how I would utilize this. Now, when we have trades going on when it's above the 200 MA, we usually have a higher degree of success. So if you notice here, had I got in on this particular trade here, I could have captured about 20 to 25% on that particular trade. Here, I would have got in and got out there, would have made about 15%. Now we're at the bottom. Guess what? I would be in this trade as we speak with the buy tag. So I would enter here, would have set my stop loss wherever you're comfortable, whatever your risk tolerance is. I would have set it probably just below this one. I would be risking approximately 6%. And guess what? When are you going to get excited? When I see this break above this 200 MA, that's when I'd be entering moving my stop loss up to break even and basically covering. So I got a risk-free trade going on. So at this point, and then as this thing moves forward, if it keeps continuing trending back up, I would start raising that into stop profits, riding it up, protecting my capital. I won't make this too tight because it can suddenly wick down and take you out. So I'm just trying to be patient. In other words, I'm just reducing my risk. So that's the power of utilizing this amazing tool called the HODL Fire. So you can get the long-term reports, utilize the HODL Fire, and you'll have a lot of good confluence knowing when to get in and when to get out, because Marius is giving us calls on a weekly basis, giving us good advice as to what we want to be doing on a long-term basis. Should you want to be trading more actively, shorter time frames, then I would highly recommend that you take the other education courses. The self-paced foundational course or the live course is an excellent course to be taking to get your basics. From there, I find that people really accelerate once you completed the ultimate trade course. This course has really changed the way I trade. And I utilize all the indicators, the custom indicators that Nico and Corey have created to add more confluence into my trades. And some of those are really quite invaluable. For example, let me just bring up on this particular trade right here. You'll notice that when we had the buy tag come in, we also got a green dot on the detonator indicator. We also got this crossing over and heading over the zero line. Those are all extra confluences that would help me know that this would be a higher probability of success with this particular trade. So there's so much here that we have to work with. It's just amazing. And so what I invite everybody is to take the time and take the education because you want to increase your odds of success. Again, looking at these indicators, look at this detonator B. We've got a green dot right here, right at the buy tag. We've got the this red crossing over the blue, and it's now heading over the zero line. These are all very positives. And I know once we get over that zero line, this is where we have great success. You see here, looking back, gives you great confluence as you know what's going on. So we're just waiting now for this to swing back up and get back into this zone. And this, when we get at the top, that's when we start looking at exiting. You notice here, we're at the top of momentum, a red dot, just before the pivot top came in. So you can see how these work in confluence with each other. So with that, I'd like to invite any of you who have any questions or any comments. You're more than welcome to ask whatever you'd like, and I'll see if I can answer them for you. So while we're doing that, I'll just stop sharing my screen for the moment. And so Sharon and Mario and Christina, any further questions that you might have, I'd be more than happy to try and help you. And I'm just going to check on live on the streaming to see if there's any questions there. So far, we have no questions from the YouTube channel. So thank you again for coming on board with me today. And I do this call every Friday at this time. So this really covers the European and the African market for time zones. I also do this call on Mondays for the North American market, which I think it's quite late in the evening. It's more like 1 or 2 in the morning for Europe or Africa time. But yeah, you're more than welcome to pop in any questions you might have. You can even unmute yourself if you want and ask a direct question if that's easier. So before I, shut down the call today, last chance for you to ask any questions that you might have. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for giving me the heads up. By the way, patience. One of the most difficult things to learn in this market is losing patience and logic because they want the people to be whipsawed out utilizing emotions. And that's what happened here over the last 3 or 4 days. They have absolutely crushed people out. And so the leverage traders have been wiped out. People that didn't know what was going to happen in the future have been wiped out. Fortunately for us, we knew this was coming, so we could relax. We now know what's going to happen in the future as well, as Marius's new gate is about to open and I think we're going to be calling it the Golden Gate. So it hung in there. You're going to be very well rewarded on the other side. So with that, thank you for taking the time to listen to me this morning, and hopefully we'll see you signed up and on the other side. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend. Bye for now.